This podcast is brought to you by HEC Paris.
Agility means that you're sometimes in a position to take decision without knowing all the parameters necessary for the decision. So at the same time, you have to take risk.
It's about winning, and it's about teaching people to win. Don't believe all this stuff which says it's not the winning that matters, it's the taking part. That's rubbish. Why do people get involved in sport? They get involved to win.
The more talent, normally, the less training. And it's only when the incredibly talented decide to train like someone without talent that they become maybe genius. Can sport deliver and give a unique contribution to leadership skills? Of course, I believe that it can.
I do believe there is a lot of things we can learn on the measurement side from the high-performance sport and see if we can draw some parallels as to how we measure good leadership going forward.
When you are really passionate about the sport, obviously you can say it's just to participate, but that's just a lie. At the end of the day, you just want to win.
Yes, I think there's a lot of emotions because everybody wants to win in the game or in the competition, and it's about how to cheer people, how to motivate your team members, and how to react to the bad circumstances. It's practice for your real work, actually.
At the end, when you're a leader, you want your company to be the best. If you're a project manager, you want your project to be the best. So, of course, it is totally linked. And the objective is not to be a leader. The objective is to perform.
We basically find out the link between how you lead when you are, let's say, you are tired, and still you have to win for the team. So how you keep pushing the boundaries, and this is something like a theoretical concept that you learn in class, but that you can really feel out on the field. So this is something that we're trying to do through the medium sports. Plus, it's a nice sunny day, so why not? Huh?
I think sports has a big part, has a big involvement in leadership. Whenever you play with 4 people, for instance, you always have a leader that just comes up. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic between the groups. So I think it's pretty appropriate to have a one day dedicated to sports and competition and teamwork as well. So
even the leaders have to keep moving and constantly be agile, keep understanding what's happening in the market, and really keep moving forward. That's the mantra. Keep moving forward.
For the moment, we're playing tennis in groups, so we have 4 teams. You have the team that is playing, and the team that is in fact watching and criticizing. But criticism can be positive and negative. And so we have a scorecard per exercise, so we are in exercise number 2 now, and we're going through, in fact, the skills we have to assess.
usually, when you have a good player, he comes as a natural leader because he has the technical expertise. But since none of them know how to play, it was really interesting to see who came up first. And he did, just by being more cooperative and trying to help his fellows.
Agility for us was being flexible, but also with the time perspective. That is, if you're agile, you're able to adapt very fast. So you're both flexible and very quick in doing it.
Sports, for me, is absolutely essential. I was a CEO for many years, and when you're the CEO, you should always smile and be quiet, when things are happening. And sports help you control yourself, because when you have played sport, you feel good, you feel well. And the other thing, it gives you a lot of resistance. When you are in a leading position, you work very hard, really hard. So you need to be very strong physically and mentally.
I think, in fact, the big thing is to use sport above all to talk about leadership, which is very important, because we see that sport is a very good example of leadership.
I'm going to work through 2 examples in which you and I together are going to portray leadership on our model. You believe he was agile? Did he have the ability to change things? What did he do at the end of his life? Was he agile about that?
Yeah.
Maybe in the middle.
Well, we do expect leaders to adapt to new circumstances. If it were a cookbook and I could say, look, this is what it takes to be a leader, then it would be very easy, but then you probably wouldn't need it. Okay? What we are trying to prepare them for are the tomorrow, the unknown tomorrow. We don't know what they're going to see, encounter, what kind of problems they're going to see. So putting an emphasis on agility, on the ability to adapt, and the ability to cope with new situations, with uncertainty, is key to us.
Was the strategy given by everybody or only by some people? I don't know.
During the first two, basically you didn't know who was in your team actually. You know you were red or blue, but you didn't know what the team was like.
Yeah, he didn't catch the ball once, so I still gave him 5 for reactivity, and maybe some people would have given 4.
What we're doing in the workshop this afternoon, basically we try to relate what comes out of sports and how it can be related into, again, everyday life. And more thoroughly, we're trying to describe basically what was the most important aspect that a leader displays in sports. Is it his mental abilities, is his emotional abilities, or is his physical abilities? And how does that translate into real life? And people are arguing that if somebody has a lot of skills, he'll be the natural leader. While they say you can have as much skills as you want, but I mean, if you don't support the other team, no matter how much skills you have, you're not going to be a leader. So we did come to a consensus that having mental ability would be the most important thing when leading a team. And again, that because mental ability is something that displays trust, and we believe that trust is the focal point in being a good leader.
I learned how to cooperate with people. Even I'm not like a basketball player. I was not like a professional in that field, but I really learned a lot of things by cooperating with my teammates, by bringing the component of team feeling, building a team win attitude, cooperating with them, and it was like a very satisfactory workshop.
It is interesting just because you can relate it to everyday life, which I think anything that you can gain in sports can be related to everyday life. Not only agility, but definitely agility is an important thing. And somebody mentioned this earlier in class when we were discussing as a group, that they were able to know their teammates a lot more in the first 10, 15 minutes of playing sports than in 3 hours of working together for a particular case study.
The whole recipe for success in winning has agility as one of its main ingredients. And losing itself is another step of winning, that you learn from something like that. And that could be a lesson that you use the next time to go towards winning. So I think the aspect of winning or losing, whatever it is, really gives you the valuable lesson on how you can use agility to take it forward in your real life and a leadership role.
A mistake or something which has been lost is very often a fantastic opportunity to recreate a group, to recreate a motivation, and sometimes to take leadership. I mean, you may be in a situation where a company needs a strong restructuring. If you're the one who's going to take the risk and say to everybody, look, we're going to rebuild, we're going to create something very successful. We lost this, it's going to make a success. You become the leader.
There's this interaction that you get between people when they're working towards a common goal. And when that common goal isn't necessarily something intangible, when it's something more personal, more close to yourself, like winning, people have this different drive behind it. And the competitive aspect of sports is always an interesting thing to bring into the realm of leadership and teamwork and see how people change with that.
The agility part is getting very clear, and it speaks to me because you know, in my past I've had very different jobs. I worked in international development, I worked in the business sector, and I've also worked in a government. And I'm hoping, you know, that by the end of the seminar, I'll have an even clearer picture.
Diplomacy, like business, and like any endeavor, has elements of both continuity and change. The purpose of diplomacy, our sense of purpose, has always been to forge and strengthen mutual understanding. Identifying shared interests and shared values is a prerequisite to developing shared policies, approaches, and programs. And this is what the United States has done every day with France and with our other friends and allies around the world. A rapidly changing world requires agility and creativity in how we conduct diplomacy. As in business, success in diplomacy largely depends on the ability to identify and understand your audience and then use the appropriate tools to communicate with them. And in the 21st century, both of these elements have dramatically changed, requiring us to be more agile and more creative.
Please visit us at www.agc.edu.